Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Brian Dawson of District Flight Deals and DC Tech People. Brian, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Gresh. I'm really excited to be here, talk to your audience, and get chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. I do know you're doing some phenomenal things in the area. And before we jumped in, I want to reintroduce you to Brian so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Brian's the founder of District Flight Deals and DC Tech People. District Flight Deals helps people in the DC area save up to 75% off normal flight costs. And DC Tech People is a new business that seeks to bring the DC area tech community together through stories and products made exactly for them. Brian, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So they kick off everything. I want to rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story. We'll let you get started with your businesses.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I was working my regular 9 to 5, or more like 8 to 6, I guess, and wanted to start a business for a long time. At the same time, I had just gotten engaged, and a lot of friends were in a similar situation. And I'm from Los Angeles. My wife's from Alabama. Friends getting married all over the place. So I was doing a lot of traveling that year. And I've always been kind of into the travel hacking scene. So started to really get serious about looking for cheap flights, turned that into keeping track of cheap flights, and then saw that some other people had done similar things in the space and have like shared cheap flights that they found. And I was a subscriber to some blogs and some newsletters that helped people find cheap flights, but there was always the annoyance for me of getting an email about a cheap flight, but it's not from DC. It's from Philadelphia, or it's from New York, and you can't figure it out until you click into the email. So I wanted something just for me. Figured there were other people who might want that too. So decided to make District Flight Deals, which is an email newsletter where I send out cheap flights that I'm finding. And then over the years have kind of refined that process to be able to find pretty great flights. Like a couple of years ago, my wife and I took one, or last year we took one to Rome, $283 round trip. So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to send out to people and that people are taking advantage of.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure everybody who's listening to this is probably shaking their head in agreement right now and looking to figure out how they can find those great deals. So it's great to hear like how you scratch your own itch and then it starts to grow into what is a business and a great opportunity for so many others.
Exactly. Yeah. Recently, during coronavirus, it's a little bit different. I'm setting out flights for later this year, like late 2020, early 2021. But right now, kind of waiting to see how things develop. Still sending out flight deals, but like I said, for the distant future. But it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And then that's kind of led me into this other business that I've started, DC Tech People. So when I was starting District Flight Deals, didn't really know anybody in the tech space in DC. It's something I'd been interested in for a long time, but just kind of solved every problem by Googling and answering or looking for answers on forums and everything like that. And I knew it'd be really nice if I knew people in the space who I could go to for, to ask technical questions, for mentorship, that kind of thing. And then over the course of the business, I started to get to know people. People would reach out. I would reach out to people, get to know people, and it was really helpful for the business. And so that and kind of a desire to get to know even more people led me to want to start a site to bring the DC area tech community together. And there are some different pockets where, the community gets together with meetups and stuff. And obviously now that's kind of on hold, but wanted just a place to help people tell their stories, people like you, other entrepreneurs in the area, and then kind of figure out what could be the most helpful thing I could do to make products for these people. In the last few weeks, that's just been in the last month, I saw some friends in the DC area tech community get laid off. So I kind of accelerated plans to make a job board and made a job board called Still Hiring DC so that people who have gotten laid off can find some open positions going forward. So launched that a few weeks ago, and that's kind of like the first product that I see, but I know that more will come. I'm just kind of trying to get to know people and get to know what could be helpful.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And I definitely, been honored to kind of be on the site as well too. So I definitely appreciate that. And I think that I love, again, kind of the organic nature, I guess you can say, of how things start to develop, because I think when you start to just have an interest and you start to pursue that interest, you don't necessarily know exactly what it's going to be. But obviously in the times that we're recording this, a need presented itself. And because you had started to build and have that community, you're able to kind of provide that product or service that helps meet that need.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I know you touched on each of the businesses and kind of what they include. Is there anything additional you wanted to kind of let us know that we should know about either the business that we can understand how you serve your clients?
Yeah, sure. So right now, like I said, there's a job board, and the customer there would be companies who are looking to hire. But more of my relationship is with people in the DC area tech community who might be candidates, or people starting businesses, growing businesses, and I'm telling their stories on the site. Like I mentioned, I interviewed you, Gresh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to go live soon, the interview section of the site.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it for now. But we'll be adding some products in the future. So for district flight deals, it's people who are looking to travel for cheap. And for DC tech people, it's people who want to get to know other people in the community, learn what's going on, and maybe post or find an open job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're from the Los Angeles area, you said, but I think for somebody who's kind of a DC native, so to speak, or DC area native, I should say, you're always looking, to have like opportunities, especially around this area, and see and be able to drill down, find job opportunities, as you mentioned, or of course, flight deals to Rome for $200 or so also helps out as well too. So
Yeah.
definitely appreciate you for creating that. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call your secret sauce. And it could be for you personally or your businesses, but what do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
I think we kind of touched on it actually in that last question, which is um, I think it's the adaptability and
Mm,
the flexibility. I think our world changes faster and faster, and making predictions and plans for what's going to happen is harder and harder. And I think that my belief and kind of what I try to live out with the businesses is that it's the people who can respond quickly to change and can adapt that are going to be the most successful going forward. And so I think it's that adaptability. I'm still trying to figure that out with district flight deals right now, what that business might look like. I think most airlines dropped like 10% today in their stock price, and that's going to be crazy. But that's the kind of stuff that I think means you need to be able to be flexible.
yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think, those are the kind of skills. I don't know if you can necessarily learn those skills. I guess, I don't know if they're innate or how you get those skills, but that they're so integral to business, obviously to technology. And obviously you mentioned the travel business as well too, because you have to be able to kind of pivot and make adjustments and changes. And I think, obviously you can do that within a business, but I think sometimes the most difficult part is if you're not able to do it within yourself and look for those opportunities and pivot. So it's great for, obviously you have been able to do and are doing, and I think it's also a great reminder to us on how important that is to be successful.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Okay, thought about this a little bit. I think the number one thing that's kind of changed how I work in the last 4 months, and has definitely made an impact, is an app, or it's not a dedicated app. It's in browser, but it's called Roam Research. Have you heard of this by
I
chance?
have not. I have not.
So it's similar to Evernote or Notion or a note taking app like that, um, but the difference is that you can. If I'm taking notes on, say, this is what I did in district flight deals today. I
Mm-hmm.
did, I executed this marketing strategy. I fulfilled these customer requests. I can link to another note. I can say, I did marketing and put like hashtag marketing, or just make a page that's all about all my marketing efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like Wikipedia, then you can go to the next page. But
Yeah.
what's really interesting is that then when you go to that next page, you can see everywhere you've linked to that page from. So it just
Mm.
kind of helps. It's hard to explain. I would encourage everybody to kind of play around with it. But on the internet, most links are one directional. They take you somewhere, but you can't see where someone has linked to that site from, or in Evernote or Notion, it's like that. But on Roam, you can see where it's been linked to, and there's just something magical about that just lets you synthesize everything you're working on, see everything as one, and it's got some really great task management functionalities. So instead of keeping my knowledge in one area like Evernote and my tasks in another area like Trello, it's all in one in Roam, and it's an amazing tool. I would encourage everybody to check it out.
Yeah, it definitely sounds amazing. I haven't actually seen it myself, but I don't know if I can see it because I've had that frustration when I was, I use Evernote religiously and I try to link between notes often and it's not intuitive as how you can do it. So I love that aspect and being able to kind of link everything because I can see it because I wish I would have saw it, but never thought about actually created it
Yeah.
until you mentioned it as a hack.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think other note taking apps, they kind of replicate like a file cabinet. And you have
Hmm.
everything in a certain file folder. But I might use a marketing strategy for district flight deals that would be good for DC tech people, and I might not remember to go back to that file.
Hmm.
And it's different in Rome because everything is connected and you can access it from anywhere. So subjects aren't kept so separate and knowledge isn't kept so siloed. Everything comes together.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was gonna think. And I was thinking that it has to be really phenomenal, especially for like ideas and kind of like I'm thinking like whiteboarding to some degree, but do it on a more digital standpoint that you can see everything all at once, and it helps you make those connections and those synergies between
Yeah,
everything as you mentioned.
yeah, it's great. It's a great tool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. So that could be like a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, or if you were to hop into a time machine, might tell your younger business self.
Yeah, I think it would be along kind of themes you touched on earlier. If I was to go back and tell myself, it would be that speed is better than planning,
Mhm.
and that's obviously not always true. But in general, I think I personally have spent too much time planning, too much time predicting what I think is going to happen, and you just never know until the rubber hits the road what exactly is going to shake out. Uh, and and by with doing things with speed, you get advantages. So like one example is, have you heard of the law of shitty click-throughs?
No, I have not.
Okay, so there's this a growth marketer in Silicon Valley. I don't know exactly what he does, but his name's Andrew Chen. He runs a great blog. I believe he's a venture capitalist too. I don't know his exact resume, but he penned this law of shitty click-throughs, and he talks about how when the internet first came came online, the first banner ad on a website, the click-through rates were like 75%.
Mhm.
And over time, customers get used to it. They get ad fatigue. We don't even see banner ads anymore. They're invisible to me.
Right.
Eventually, the click rate gets down to almost zero. And that happens to every marketing channel. And so the thing to do there, knowing that every marketing channel eventually will reach excuse me, language, but shitty click through rate is what he calls it. Uh, then the answer is to move with speed. If you were on Facebook ads in 2012, you could have done really, really well.
Mhm.
Now, pretty hard. I mean, still doable. And in 20 years, probably very, very hard. So speed gives you that advantage in marketing channels. And I think it gives you an advantage in a lot of other areas too. Just you can plan all you want, but you only know once you start doing things, and you learn a lot faster by doing things. So that would be my advice to myself. And I think my advice to others too, is just do things quickly if the cost to doing them is low.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it just reminded me of, like first movers advantage as well too, because a lot
Yep.
of times, especially on social media platforms, if you were one of the first movers or within that first wave, I guess you can say you paid next to nothing for a lot of the advertising, opportunities and things like that. But as time goes on, there's more people that use it, the price starts to go up, and then there's more people, more noise on it. So it starts to become a lot harder to kind of get through and have that shitty click through rate that I'm sure we're always kind of searching for.
Exactly. If you could have been on TikTok 2 years ago, then
Mhm.
you'd be doing really well right now. So yeah, if the cost is low, just take some gambles and try to move quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that too, where you said, speaking from your own perspective, because I think so many times I hear that kind of self-awareness within that too, because I think if you lean more way or the one way or the other, it's always great to understand that you can shift that way because you probably already have that strategy in your mind of what you're going to be thinking about, but now just trying to take more actions and take more gambles to see things through.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Brian, what does being a CEO mean to you?
To me, being a CEO means that you bear the responsibility. The buck stops with you, and whatever happens with the business, even if it's a decision that one of your employees made, or for me, any decision that I make that ends up on any of my products, it stops with me. I'm the one responsible, and that's my definition of CEO.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think especially when we have these visions and what we want to do with our businesses, you have to keep in mind that, we are, and the buck does stop with you. So a lot of times these decisions that we make, or sometimes even decisions that we don't make, you have to understand that comes back around to you. So I think that's an incredible perspective and definition.
Yeah, and then because of that, it's up to you to make good processes that people can follow, good processes for your products and your systems and everything. And if somebody, one of your employees makes a bad decision, and that's info for you to go back and make a better process, make a better system that's not going to lead to that next time.
Yeah, and I love that second part of it, because I think so many times we can outwardly blame people or circumstances or things, but I think if we take the brunt and we understand that if the buck stops with us, and if something was a mistake and maybe we didn't communicate it, so maybe we can work on how we can better communicate that. But I think that gives us a lot of opportunity to be our best self, so that the business and everything around the business ends up being better too.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Brian, truly appreciate that definition and that perspective. Appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Sure. Get into contact with me. Probably best place right now is on Twitter. It's at DC Tech People. That's right now where I'm personally tweeting about updates to that project and what's going on. And I try to be transparent if anybody wants to ask me any questions about how something's built or what my thoughts are on making various decisions. I'm really happy to have conversations there. Or you can find my email if you go to dctechpeople.com. Very easy to get in contact with. Other last thoughts, I guess I'll just give a couple book recommendations that I've been reading lately. So on the theme of that CEO question, one book that really touches there is Principles by Ray Dalio. Great book, really goes into that idea of how the processes are up to you, all the way that your business works is up to you, especially the first part of that book, really good. And then related to how hard it is to plan for the future and how to be flexible would be Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. Highly recommend that book. That's probably my favorite nonfiction book I've maybe ever read. So if anybody hasn't heard of those, go check those out. Reach out to me on Twitter. Would love to connect with some people.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Brian. We will have the links and information in the show notes, and I definitely, appreciate the book recommendations as well too. I think that I think 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People, you always want to kind of sharpen the saw, and I think books and podcasts and interviews are a great way to do that. So I appreciate you for sharing that, for doing that, and for reminding us of doing that as well too. So I appreciate you, my friend, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you, Gresh. So good to be on the show, and yeah, good one.
All right, and I'll cut it off here.